Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Front Page, a show for the fall 2017 semester here at CU Community College and broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon, Fios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, as well as the college's radio station Win 89. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. If you are a baseball fan, you are either happy if your team is possibly headed to the World Series this month, or like many fans thinking, well, there's always next year. Closer to home, the Auburn Doubledays ended their season last month at Falcon Park. With a new management team being brought in at the beginning of the year, the Doubledays worked hard to give local residents a taste of professional baseball closer to home. With us in the studio are Auburn Doubledays General Manager Adam Winslow, as well as Assistant General Manager and Community Relations Director Shane Truman, to give us an update on the season that just finished, as well as a preview of what we can expect in 2018. Welcome back. Welcome to Beyond the Front Page.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Guy.
Great to have you both here. So let's talk about past before we go into the future. How did you end up the 2017 season?
From an overall perspective, we found it was very successful. From the feedback we've received on what needed to be changed, what suggestions people had, what we've now processed through. I think our fiscal year ends, but we're projected to look pretty healthy from that perspective.
So fiscally, you were happy with it?
We're very happy with where we're at.
Wins and losses?
Wins and losses, we are not very happy with that.
So how did they end up the season?
Tied for last, 30 and 45.
So how big an impact is that heading? I mean, they were last for about at least 2 or 3 weeks at the end of it. How does that impact your attendance numbers?
I think it depends.
I mean, you get the diehards. They're going to be there.
It depends on what we have going on. You know, we come from an era really, like, I like the sport, obviously, but at the same time, I go more for not just the game, the food, the whole atmosphere, the music, the buddy I'm sitting next to that I've gained a relationship with. I think that's a big part of it. Does it matter? Sure, of course it matters. Anybody wants to follow a winning team. Nobody wants to follow a losing team. Being a Cubs fan over here next to me, growing up, he had some tough years. He had some tough years, so obviously he can tell you a little bit more about that. But it matters to a certain degree at our level. I don't think it matters as much as long as we have some type of substance going on within the game itself.
So do you have attendance numbers for the year? What you ended up with?
We were just shy of 55,000, which was what we did last year.
Okay.
55,000 people.
And what can you do?
Well, we had 2 rainouts.
Okay.
So we lost 2 rainouts there, and we had 3 to 4 rain delays late that obviously we feel deters people from coming. If it's raining at 5 o'clock, they're not coming to the game at 6, 7 o'clock.
Excuse the terminology, crappy. I mean, if it looks like we did not have
cloudy.
If we had a bad early July, I think my lawn's dry today, but it wasn't 2 months ago.
Yes.
So how big an impact does weather have on what's going on at the park?
Huge impact. I think
is that the biggest impact?
Without question, and uncontrollable.
Okay, but even bigger than wins and losses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We could
you
go through.
You can fix customer service. You can fix a ball team. You cannot fix the weather.
Nope. Nope.
So what can you? So you said you had about 55,000. I know you had at the beginning of the year you had a hope of hitting how many?
106,400.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're more than halfway there.
Correct.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about finances and then get to some of the promotions. Before the season started, and again, you two came on in January or December?
I came on in January, and then Andy and Shane came on in the beginning of March.
Okay. So you didn't have a whole year like you do now to prepare. But before the season started, the city did provide some loans.
Correct.
How much has been loaned out to Auburn Community Baseball?
We were approved for a loan of $150,000. We've currently used 50 of that 150. So what we projected on a cash flow for the first 6 months, we've actually, in a positive way, have been able to keep $100,000 or not spend $100,000 of that. So from that end of it, from what we projected, we're very happy with that.
So are you already starting to pay back the city?
We will be starting here fairly soon. Our fiscal year closes out at the end of October. So we have some reimbursements, some other things.
It's baseball.
It's baseball, right? There's some reimbursements and things that are still owed to us. So we're just finalizing that piece
from
of
other
it.
vendors.
From other vendors.
From the city.
Yes, correct.
And so the $50,000 really was to get grease the skids, start getting ready. What did you use the money for?
To pay staff, make sure that the vendors got taken care of in an immediate, timely fashion. Some things we ran into were a few vendors were skeptical because of the payment terms and such of previous history. We fixed that, which is a huge accomplishment in itself for this franchise, I believe. And the city, from the city side of it, and I don't want to speak for the city, but the ownership group made a whole effort to make sure that we had money to cash flow to start the season, to make sure we had that to be able to move forward without any stipulations or any curveballs, so to speak, to move forward with.
They're going to come fast. All of them. All of the bad terminology.
Absolutely.
So, the city manager was here back in, I want to say, late April, talked about reorganizing Auburn Community Baseball and coming up with another entity. Where is that all sit today? So,
right now I believe it's Auburn Community Baseball Nonprofit Association, Inc. We will be changing to an Auburn Community Baseball LLC. We've just been recently approved by the league and the Board of Governors of the league.
New York Penn League, which you still have to get approval from, or they have approved that?
Yes, we've just recently gotten approval.
So when do you see that change?
That will most likely change over at the start of our new fiscal year from an accounting practice perspective.
Okay.
Yep.
And who will sit on that board?
That I am unsure of. That is a ownership question. Because technically, based on New York Penn League and how they would like us to structure it as well, is up to Jeff Taggart, the city manager, and also the city council.
So obviously you're well aware because you'll be part of the management of this process. The college has just signed an agreement with the city to bring baseball from a college level in the spring of 2019. But right now, who uses the field besides the Doubledays?
Actually, there's quite a few groups that have used the field. Auburn High School uses the field for quite a number of their home games. We had Wells College come to the ballpark to utilize our field a few times. We had American Legion teams from Auburn and the surrounding areas, Moravia, Cato, those outskirt areas of Auburn come in to use the field. And we also
so it's more than just a pro ball facility. Okay.
We also opened it up to boys and girls baseball here in Auburn, and they came and did their moving up day. So all of the kids that were going to age out of the program came to the park and did a little bit of a long 19-20 run game at the park and had a great time as well. So we try to utilize it for as many things as we can. And then we also just hosted an Auburn Blue Jazz Festival where we had different bands from different areas. We had Savoy Brown actually as the headliner for the event.
How many people came down on Sunday?
It was roughly 500-600 people. Okay. So, you know, as a first year, as something that, you know, we started promoting a little bit late and got in the game late with, we were pretty happy with where we ended up, and we think we can grow on that and build on that.
So you expect to do another event like that?
Absolutely. I mean, what use is it having a wonderful facility like we have if we don't utilize it for more than just our season, you know? So
you came in March, you came in January. It is tough to put together something that opens up the... there's not an understanding. I mean, it's tough to put something together where you have, how many games do you have there?
38.
38. So you got to be ready for 38 days, rain or shine. How big a challenge was it to put the 2017 season together?
It was a huge challenge, to be honest with you.
What were the major issues? Sounds like vendor relations.
Yep, I would say vendor relations. I would say you're starting with a whole new staff. So, you know, as much as...
So there's three of you on the executive team. You are the general manager, you're the assistant general manager in community relations, and you have Mr. Collier, who does what?
He's the AGM of the operation side of it. So
what's he responsible for?
He's responsible for all the food and beverage, the stadium setup, how it gets cleaned at the end of the night.
Okay, so I'll give you a punt, a football term. You're going to punt in a minute.
Yes.
We're going to ask about food and beverages.
Absolutely, without question.
So what did you think you excelled at this year?
I think dealing with our customers on a daily basis, by far. The amount of times that I heard that our staff was out into the general public, whether it was on site at the facility or not, was a huge thing. It was a huge suggestion and a huge complaint that we heard that we needed to be more visible, and we did that.
I saw you downtown at whether it was Major Palooza or Tomato Fest. You're everywhere.
That was a big part of our plan,
Absolutely.
really was. You know, it's very hard to market in this area and to get the word out to people because of where we are in coordination with Ithaca, Syracuse, and Rochester. So to start a grassroots campaign and really get out in the public and introduce ourselves as three local guys who wanted to come in and do something more than has been done at Falcon Park in quite some time.
So you are also starting an initiative, this is mostly a good place to talk about it, is 52 plus 4 for you.
52 for you.
Okay, 52 for you. Tell us what it is.
Well, you know, we have a whole bunch of community initiatives that we want to get involved with. And we want the community to rally behind us, obviously, as an organization.
Well, you need them.
Absolutely. You know, they're kind of the lifeblood of our business. And we figure we can't expect people to invest their time and energy in what we're doing unless we're investing our time and energy into what our community cares about and what they would like us to be a part of. So we want to volunteer our time at least once a week for 52 weeks for our community. So that initiative, the 52 weeks for you as in our community. So
what have you done so far?
Well, so far this idea came to us over the promotional seminar down in Greenville, South Carolina.
So last week, the reason you're on this week is not last week, is you were at a seminar to look at promotions. So you're starting. So what do you have planned then?
That's actually where we're at right now. The first thing we have in the hopper is Heal does an event. They're going to do it at the Owens Orchards
Fall Fest. Yeah.
So it's a fall fest that they're doing that we're going to bring.
It's
the Heroin Epidemic Action League here in Auburn. You know, that's something that I have experience with in my last line of work. And I feel that it's a really important piece.
So what was your last line of work?
I actually worked for Cuba Seneca Community Action Agency and ran their youth homeless program and helped in the emergency services. And then I moved from there to Chapel House, where I worked with a lot of individuals who were homeless and struggling with different things, whether they be mental health or addiction issues and so on and so forth.
So you've got that at Heal that you'll do at Owens. What else have you got planned?
We're still in the planning process at this point of finding the places that we'd really like to volunteer. So obviously we want to go to food pantries and food service type of, you know, the community lunch, those type of things.
So does this mean showing up and helping physically or promoting it? Or does it mean showing up with, and obviously neither of the two of you are him, Abner?
How do you know?
Events. I don't know, because you didn't show up. The day Abner shows up, I will say, good night, Gracie. But anyway. I mean, what does it entail?
It's all of the above, really.
Okay.
We don't want to just show up and bring Abner and say, here, have fun, walk around. We want to be on the front lines. We want to actually be doing instead of just watching. So,
forgetting what you're going to come up with, but this last season, I thought one of the fun things, I'd been down to the park a couple of times, promotions, between innings, these events, these contests, always fun. They look like they have varied from previous years. How do you come up with them?
Well, we're still coming up with them every day, honestly. And, you know, I was the guy who was in charge of coming up with a lot of those. And I like to think that I bring a lot of excitement and increase
you are
the
very
atmosphere.
I will say this in front of your boss. You are very entertaining.
Why, thank you.
And no, in a positive way, but no, you get the crowd riled up in a good way.
And that's the goal, right? And
not a Frankenstein, Mary Shelley type of way.
I hope not. I hope
a good
not.
way. Okay.
You know, and I felt to an extent that sometimes our promotions did get a little stale, and I wanted to come up with new, fresh ideas. Adam pushed me to come up with new, fresh ideas.
So is that important that you're not? Because I know originally there was everything from, throw the big fish into the Bass Pro net, and that's fun.
But everybody remembers that one.
I know.
You know how many times I hear about that?
But that's the problem, is because I remember that, but I don't think I remember all the rest of them. Mm-hmm. Now this season I do remember, whether it's getting kids who clearly cannot fit into any of these uniforms that you put down, and have them try to get in, hat, shirt, and pants, and it clearly does not work. But it works as an entertaining and getting people pay attention to that. So, what do you have a favorite?
Personally, my favorite is what we called the staff stampede, where we had every kid that was in the stadium come down and they could all run across the field. So it wasn't so much a contest or something they could necessarily win.
So they start over by the kids center over by first base.
Correct.
They run all the way across over to third base, where their parents have to scramble to find them.
That is correct.
Okay.
Now,
that's a game in itself.
My mom loved it, or my wife loved it. She loved watching the kids run across every time. A lot of the parents said, it's great. You usually can't get every kid on the field, but to allow something like that to happen and let every kid have a little taste of the field and see those big guys out there, because a lot of the guys would play around with them as they went across the field. A lot of our guys were phenomenal with that. That was something that I really felt like was special for the kids.
I love it from a mere fact of it makes our groundskeeper go crazy.
Yes.
So that if I can, anything to keep him on his toes, I will do every single time.
Okay. So the other thing that you had down there that I don't think I may not have seen previously as much, was you had Perform for Purpose, which is a youth group that really, they play music, but you had them sing the national anthem, but between each inning, they were playing music for the most part.
Yeah, we had them out there.
Did you have them at almost every game?
Almost every home game. Towards the end of the year, it started to wind down a little bit with school starting and with all the events they had going on. But what was really exciting about Perform for Purpose, not only did they provide atmosphere, did they provide music that was live, but they also provided money for our community. So they did a song-a-thon where every time they came to Falcon Park and sang, they were sponsored by people in the community and ended up raising over $2,000 this year by playing at Falcon Park to give back to the community.
Will you be using them again?
I think there's a possibility that we'll use them again. We really liked working with Jim Van Arsdale and the whole Perform for Purpose group. I think it was tough for them to commit to so many dates, so we're going to have to look at kind of what we did and where we can go forward from here.
For the 52 for you, are you looking for projects as well? Do you want people, do people just call you down at the ballpark? Do they go online? Is there a form online? How do they make contact? Not that you aren't, the two of you aren't seen in the community, and how do people?
I think if anybody has any project out there that wants to get us involved, by all means, it's something that we definitely want to get involved in. I think calling the office at 315-255-2489, grabbing Andy, myself, or Shane. We're the three that are there, so we'll be one of the three that picks up the phone.
And we'll say that number again because we're going to talk about tickets in a second. I want to go back to this transition of, not to concentrate on it, but we talked about what you thought you excelled at. If you had more time, what would you have done differently if you had the full year?
You mean have more time in this
Set
interview,
up.
or
No.
the Oh, okay.
Setting up for the 2017 season.
I think there's
because we can stretch this out.
I think there's a ton of things we can improve on, and that's not to say that we made mistakes. We did make mistakes, and that's how you learn from them, and I think how you get better. Everything, some things that we wanted to set up in the stadium that we thought was a great idea may not have been. Okay. The one thing that we are proud of is a food and beverage from a line perspective. One thing we always heard about the main concession area, which, not to anybody's fault, but we have one building right now that has really a
So you're
kitchen.
in a landlocked. So when the park was built in 1994, there were some landlock issues that if you had a perfect world, you would not design the concession area like it is.
Yep.
But you got a street.
Yep.
And you got Casey Park.
Not going anywhere else.
Not going anywhere else.
Nope.
So food has always been a priority issue for you and your predecessors. You think, so you've done two things that I think are different than what has been done in the past. One is behind first base, there's another tent where you're doing, is that just for quick food service? Is that, it's not everything that you can get at concession stands? Okay.
Correct. Just because the space and some of the health requirements that just wouldn't allow us to do that.
And then you've also, for the box seats, you have people going out there and taking orders.
Hawkers, waitresses, people selling beer, soda, popcorn, food.
Were both of those successful enough that you'll do that again next year?
Yes. We're looking to add a little bit more staff to it, to hawk a little bit more. I always say, and I say it all the time, is the only time I go to a sporting event and to get out of my seat is to take myself or the kids to the bathroom. I shouldn't have to get up for anything to drink or eat. Any specialty item obviously is a little different.
The servers, though, were only in the box seats because you paid for, that was part of your box seat purchase. It was not up in the stands.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And were you getting good turnaround times?
Yes. Yes as in, I should say, the fans seem to overall feeling was that. Are we totally sold on that? No, not yet. That's something that we're looking to improve.
Versus somebody standing and not seeing part of the game.
Correct.
They may have to wait an extra 5 minutes or whatever, 10 minutes, whatever.
Right.
But they get their food, but they have not missed the game.
Correct.
Okay. 2018?
It's right around the corner.
Oh, it's here, buddy. So what's the, what's on the drawing board right now?
Well, I'd say it's past the drawing board, but we're making there's two areas within our center bleacher areas that we're actually taking out and adding a platform-like deck areas to accommodate more smaller parties, birthday parties, catered events.
So where will these be?
Press box. So if you see where the press box is, on each corner of that bleacher seating, the top 4 rows are actually coming out. There's a platform being built to have those 20 to 30.
So the press box is still staying
Press
there.
box is still, that's the corners that the seats we're taking out. Our deck is actually getting expanded. It's being done as we speak. Is going to be, I think, going from 1,500 square feet to 2,700 square feet.
So this is on the
first base side.
Okay, so will you still have the kids?
The kids area is what we're going to be relocating to, either right behind it or possibly in another location. That's what we're trying to solidify now.
And so those are obviously structural changes. What about operational changes?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things.
He's saying
that we're
this because he's
at.
basically saying that if it goes wrong, it's your fault.
No.
I think there's a lot of things that we're looking at, and there's nothing set in stone at this point. It's trying to figure out what we can do to best serve the folks that are coming into our stadium. As any place you go, we were in Washington this weekend and watched a game for the Nationals, who is our affiliate, and they had hawkers running up and down every section. They had hot dogs, they had popcorn, peanuts, soda, beer running up and down literally every section.
So this is not people ordering it. This is people who can literally see a guy or gal.
Guy throws a hot dog, 9 people over, pass the money down the line, the whole 9. Those are things that we have to improve on, I think, as you talked about, waitress service. We need to also maybe,
I'm interested to see the reaction time for fans when you throw a hot dog at them.
Oh, you'd be amazed. We actually have now bought a T-shirt gun that we've been testing with hot dog items into it. And it actually goes pretty far. So that might be something that we might debut
Okay,
as well.
but does it come out as Spam in a can?
No, it comes out fresh. We've had Andy Collier test it because he's our taste tester.
Okay, that's true.
And he says it tastes fine. So,
you know, we talked, there's the 3 of you as the executive team. That is the executive team at this stage. Are you expanding that at all?
Not as of right now, no.
Okay.
Nope.
And you know, how many people do you employ in a season?
Up to 50 or so. 50,
Are they mainly
55.
high school and college students?
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, probably 60-40. Something like 60 college, high school, 40 or some older people or older ushers or whatever the case may be. But
okay. Yeah. So if you, obviously one of the reasons we wanted to have you on here because you did not do a lot of ticket sales between the end of the season last year, as we understood it in the beginning of the year. But this year you are rolling out promotions. In fact, I talked to somebody who buys season tickets, and they said, let's hypothetically say your last game was on Thursday night, and Friday morning in their mail was a letter, do you want to buy new season tickets?
They must have got it out late. They must have got it in their mail late.
And you know, they must not have heard the announcements that we made for about the last 2
But
weeks.
what I'm saying is you are following up with those individuals.
Absolutely, and
Okay.
we tried to do that before the season even ended.
So when our tickets are on sale now,
Correct.
they can go down to the park, they can go down, or they can go online to the website?
Yep.
Okay. How much are they?
So there's different tiers.
Okay.
You can stop and get a brochure. We actually brought one to show. We have box seats, the premium box seats available. We have changed the center grandstands to a reserved section. So a lot of folks that have bought general admission tickets for a long time get there right when the gates open so they can rush up and find their seats. Trying to make it easier for them so they can have their seats ahead of time.
For the box seats or for the?
For the center seats, we're going
right
to
by
add
the
reserved
press.
seating.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
So the pricing is going to vary between all of them. Right now we have an early bird special. So if you get in now to buy your season tickets, they're going to be a lot cheaper than they would if you wait until
So if I'm going to buy
March.
box seats, how much are they if I buy them on the early bird?
$247 for the
And
whole
if I
season.
wait till when?
$266 if you wait until, I believe it's February is when
So
we
this
switch.
promotion will go through the beginning, but this is a perfect Christmas gift for the person who
The
loves
amount of
going.
times that you bought tickets at the box office, this is right up your alley right here.
Okay, so so those discounts go on there. Are there any changes in pricing from last year, other than you're creating these new tiers? Prices are the same as last year. Am I correct on that?
Prices have gone up a little bit,
Okay.
but we're also increasing the benefits as well. So there's other things like, for example, we are depending on what package you buy, people will be able to get a souvenir cup, or it'll be $2 refills all season long.
Okay.
So you may spend a little bit more on the front end, but you're going to save in the long run.
And clearly, gas stations have figured this out. Baseball
Clearly.
is
Seems
just
to
a-
work for them.
It does seem to work for them. Speaking of food, and where does I would say there are 3 sources. Forget the times you rent out the facility, because does that money go if a high school comes? Does that go to you, or does that go to the city?
The food and beverage sales?
No. If they rent out the field, if you
That-
rent out
to us.
it does.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
But the 3 major sources: you have ticket sales, you have food, and you have beverage. So.
Advertising
number
sales
one?
is a good one.
Oh, advertising. Okay, so
Yep.
what's your top issue? What's the top revenue maker?
The revenue maker right now is food and beverage, and ad sales are pretty close, believe it or
Okay.
not, which is something that we want to change a little bit. I truly feel that ticket sales should be number one, and then everything else obviously comes with it. I think a food and beverage side, there's a huge room for growth, but from a ticket sales side, there is a group sales side, those smaller 20 to 30 people together that maybe work at CCC, so to speak, that want to go out for a game, really is non-existent in our market right now, and that's something that we're going to grow tremendously, which is going to be a very, very supportive item for us, but also to be able to enhance the game experience on the
So
other
our
side.
beverages, our beverage and food, you mostly combine them together. Do you know one leads the other?
Well, food technically does on the side of it, but beverage is a little bit more profitable than food based on the cost from our vendors.
So can you give us a percentage from each of that slice?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I found, no, I just
You know what? Off the top of my head, I don't
Okay.
know the specific percentage.
So what's the goal for 2018?
106,400.
And that is?
106,400 people through the gate.
And how do you increase attendance?
I think it's a philosophy change in marketing. I think it's a huge presence that you'll start to see change dramatically from us from a more digital social media side of it. We've done a tremendous job with that, but we haven't even touched the surface with what we have coming. Video, audio, behind the scenes stuff, like that is stuff that we should be doing, that we tried to build a foundation. I would say the growth side of it is the group sales portion we talked about, and it's getting ahead of it early. Like, for example, we had 2 advertising agreements set in stone when we came in January and February. Most people's marketing budget usually is gone by January. So that is a huge piece of it. I think we have 80% of our advertisers right now that we have end of the year reviews with and talks for next year over the next 3 weeks. And that's the same thing with the season ticket sales as well.
And with that, I guess I would ask this question. In 1994, the landscape for what people could go to is a lot different than now. You have so many different
Absolutely.
outlets. Is that your biggest challenge?
Of course.
Okay.
Next to weather.
Next to
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
So you mentioned you Washington Nationals. Are they on board for next season?
Yep. I believe every affiliate they have, including ours, our deal expires at the end of 2018 as of right now.
And are they in competition for the World Series?
They are very much so. Very much so.
So does that mean you're both rooting for the Nationals? And if you had a backup team, who would it be?
Ooh, I'm going to...
That's in contention.
In contention, I
are
grew up
not.
a Red Sox fan, so I'll have to pick that one.
And I grew up a Cubs fan, so
Yeah.
they're playing each other in the first round. So
Okay.
I'm still saying let's go Nats.
All right. So with that in mind, we want to thank both Auburn Doubledays General Manager Adam Winslow as well as Shane Truman, who is the Assistant General Manager as well as the Community Outreach person, who you can both contact for both ticket sales as well as this 52 for You program. And we'd love to have you back in the spring when we get
Anytime.
closer.
Absolutely.
But tickets to the Falcon Park are a perfect Christmas gift if you're looking for that something for someone. As well as you sell all types of memorabilia. When did you change the logo, by the way?
Actually, we didn't really change it. We just rocked this one a little bit more. That's
Okay.
all. We've had this for 7-8 years, I think, as a secondary logo. But we get so much play off of this. People love this. So we just wanted to rock a little bit of it more, that's all.
And people can buy that type of stuff at Falcon Park.
At Falcon Park, online, through us.
Through Christmas.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we have new merchandise coming in every day, so keep your eyes peeled, and hopefully you'll find something you like.
All right. We will be back on. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll be back on Thursday with our normal play of 2 shows. We'll be back with Cuyahoga County Legislative Chairman Keith Batman, who will give us an update on the county, including where they are on a search for a county administrator. And on Beyond the Front Page, we'll have a discussion about West Middle School and what is going on with Unity House and 2+4 with both Liz Smith and Sue Kimmel, respectively. And then we switch to our normal schedule of candidate forums for the rest of October with races for the Cuyahoga County Legislature and the Auburn City Council. Before we go, though, we would like to let you know that you can send us your ideas for guests or questions to Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page. You can send them to cozguytho@aol.com or Inside Government, 141 Dunning Avenue, Auburn, New York. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cuyahoga Community College. We thank you for watching. Good night. Have a great tomorrow, and good luck, Nationals.